Thanks, Corona. Because of you, I almost missed watching 2 amazing Pokemon episodes. God damn it.
Pokemon Ranger! I choose you!
What's up, mighty boys and girls? It's your Ranger here, and welcome to, finally, but also sadly, another late review of Pokemon the Anime 2019. Sorry for not uploading anything in regards of the anime, but thanks to the current events, my real life job has been even more stressful than usual. But not even a pandemic can stop me from watching and enjoying the Gen 8 anime. So let's talk about not only my impressions of this week's episode, but also about last week's episode as well. So without any more hesitation, let's talk about last week's adventure first. Before we start with the obvious highlight of the episode, can we just talk about the little fact that Ash just randomly asked Koharu out to join this group? I mean, interesting fact, the last time he did that was with our girl Serena, and people say that I overreact by comparing Koharu with Serena, even though they have so much in common, even now. But anyway, in short, the main highlight of last week's episode was Scorbunny's evolution to Reboot. In general, I really like Scorbunny and his evolution line, so I don't have any complaints about that. But let's talk about a bit more in detail about how Scorbunny evolved. The way they approached that evolution was, in my opinion, very interesting. It started all with Scorbunny constantly and unsuccessfully trying to use a fire-type move after being mocked by Darmanitan. But after witnessing his partner failing to use a fire-type move over and over again, Go just told Scorbunny to, well, basically give up on that and instead concentrate on improving what he already can do properly. And in all honesty, I really like that contrast. On the one hand, you had Scorbunny, who despite his failures tries his best to master a new move, while on the other hand, you have Go, who would rather give up after those failures. It was kind of frustrating to see how his own Pokemon tries ambitiously to overcome a huge wall, while the second main protagonist of the anime prefers to stay in his own bubble of comfort. But thank God, Go quickly abandoned staying in his comfort zone after seeing that Scorbunny indeed has some potential in him. And after they finally master Ember, Scorbunny screams out with pure determination and evolves. But not only that, but also after the evolution, Reboot seems to give Go the cold shoulder, which first of all is another reference to Pokemon changing their personality after evolving, for example like Charizard. And secondly, this change in personality will naturally lead to another personal conflict between Go and Reboot. By the way, the comedic timing of this episode was on point. First, with the whole Team Rocket / Go phone booth situation, where all of them were stuck in one place, until James is all like, hold on guys, before we continue with our conflict, how about we getting out of the phone booth first? I mean, that was hilarious. Quickly followed up by Go asking, what is a phone booth? And both James and Meow feeling like really old people talking to a whole nother generation. How can he not know what a phone booth is? See Meowth? I told you that it's too suspicious to use a phone booth as a secret entrance, because the young kids don't even know what that is. By the way, for my younger boys and girls out there, do you guys have ever used a phone booth? My recommendation? Don't. In my country, they are always dirty and filthy as hell, and more than often, it doesn't even work. So instead, use your phones and watch some Ranger videos. Haha! Sorry for the joke. Anyway, back to topic. The other comedic thing I loved in this episode was Team Rocket's, hopefully, new constant member, Chootle. It's so hilarious of how Chootle takes its time very slowly before attacking with a surprisingly strong move, even one-shotting Scorbunny at one point. But it just constantly takes its time very slowly before revealing some sort of badass move, and I really found it funny that it's such a slow Pokemon while also potentially being the next Mimikyu when it comes to power. But sadly there's only two little nitpicks I had with the whole Go / Scorbunny build-up. First, during the episode, while Scorbunny desperately tried to convince Go that he can use fire-type moves, Go just downright ignores him, which is something that Go also did during Scorbunny's second appearance in the anime, with the cute bunny Pokemon trying to get his attention while Go wouldn't recognize him. I felt a bit off that they would repeat that comedy element between Scorbunny and Go again. My second and more important nitpick would be the whole character contrast between both individuals. As much as I loved that, and believe me guys, I really did love that, it also kinda contradicted everything that was the Scorbunny debut episode. In that episode, Scorbunny was totally fine with staying in one place, with staying in his comfort zone with his friends, until Go told him to get out, explore the world, go above the horizon, and discover new things. But this episode right here is the direct opposite. Now Scorbunny is the one who wants to expand his horizon, while Go seemingly is the close-minded one who wants to stay in his comfort zone. But in my opinion, this scenario right here is both a positive and a negative. On the one hand, this is as a negative because it really contradicts the message of Go to Scorbunny back then in his debut episode, and that speech was the reason why that Pokemon was attached to Go. But on the other hand, I could also see this as a positive, because this could hint on both trainer and Pokemon developing indirectly to their opposite beliefs throughout time, and at the end, it was the positive, open-minded side, once again, who convinced the rather pessimistic Go to light up a little bit more. That is something that already happened between Ash and Go, and now it's happening between Go and Scorbunny. It's kind of fascinating to me how Go's logic constantly gets in his way, especially his thought process of quickly giving up on something if it's too complicated or too difficult, until the optimistic person has to convince him. But besides those little nitpicks, the episode overall was fantastic, and I really regret the fact that I couldn't do a full review. Whew, wow, that review was longer than I thought. So now, let us finally talk about this week's episode. This week's episode can be summed up in 3 letters. Total non-stop action. Jeez, the amount of action in this episode was insane. In short, the story was that Ash is now entering the World Tournament for the very first time. And as his first opponent, he has chosen Viscus, who is the disciple of Lieutenant Surge. And not only did Ash reference his epic clash with said Lieutenant Surge in the past, but he also is very well known throughout the entirety of the Vermilion Gym, with Viscus and the other gym members telling Ash how often their master has recognized his gym battle with Ash as something really special. But enough of the past, let's move on to the present. The initial back and forth between Pikachu and Raichu already started off very well, with Ash even using his tactic which he used against Lieutenant Surge in the past, but with no success since Viscus just overcame that with sheer brute force alone. Then Ash makes the wise decision to call Pikachu back and instead uses Gengar, and all of the strategy that Raichu used against Pikachu before didn't work on Gengar at all, thanks to Gengar having the element of surprise and his ghost typing on his side. And combining all that with the power of Gengar, which we already knew thanks to Gengar's capture episode, and no wonder that Raichu wasn't really a challenge for Ash. But Viscus then countered Ash's unpredictable battle strategy with her own unpredictable style, with her Electrode using Magnet Rise while also using the floating ground to bounce off back and forth while hitting Gengar in quick succession. And with no way for Gengar to ever catch up to Electrode speed, Ash's newly obtained Pokemon was easily knocked out, which of course meant that Ash only had Pikachu left. But in typical Ash manner, he used a very creative way of Iron Tail to reverse Electrode's rollout attack, followed up by a really impactful Iron Tail attack on Viscus Ace, and even protecting himself from Electrode's aftermath ability with his Electro Web, which in my opinion is also a really nice reference to Pikachu versus Mimikyu, since back then Pikachu also protected himself from Mimikyu's Z-move with Electro Web. With this amazing display of both strength and tactics, Ash's World Tournament rank quickly skyrocketed, and with that he made his very first step towards the unbeatable champ Leon. By the way, I also loved how they displayed that Raboot showed genuine interest in battling, with always watching with excitement upon the battlefield while also trying to resist the urge. Maybe because his own trainer doesn't aim to be a battler. Or does he? Oh, more future storylines. But I have to say, all in all, both last week and this week's episode were fantastic. Last week's episode thanks to in-depth storytelling and further display of growth for both Go and Reboot, while this week's episode shines solely because of action, while also sprinkling a bit of personal future ambition for Reboot, also hinting on further potential conflict. Anyway guys, I really hope you enjoyed this short review. Tell me your opinion on both episodes. And just like always, I see you guys in the comments down below.